NC State hung a banner and took home its first win of the 2024 season. Today we're going to recap what happened, how the team looked, were there any surprises. So stick with us, we're going to show some highlights, talk about the game, and break down what we might see the rest of the season. So after a rather disappointing showing in an exhibition win, NC State comes out in their first regular season game, puts together a 30-point victory, and there was a ton of positives to take away from this. So what I want to do is talk about one big overarching theme, the biggest thing I took away, and then we're going to talk about some of the top players from the game and break down their performances a little bit. So overall, what I came away most impressed with, as I assume most people will be as well, is just the amount of depth that NC State put on display. I think they played 12 scholarship players, maybe 13. I'd have to go back and check the numbers. But, the biggest difference this year, as maybe compared to previous years under Kevin Keatts and in that program, there's not a ton of drop-off as you go down that depth chart. So, the difference between the 6th guy and the 13th guy in the rotation is relatively small. So while I'm sure this is going to get cut down at some point during the regular season, guys impressed, and they looked the part overall by and large. So when you have to trim down that rotation, you're going to be in a great spot. Some guys that just stood out to me on the look test in particular. So Trey Parker looked the part. The way he moves is substantially different than maybe some of the other point guards that State has on the roster. He's very quick, very fast. He looked really confident taking jumpers. And was really a little flashy in the passing game, but I like that. I like the confidence. He knows what he's doing, can look off a guy and make a great pass. I like that quite a bit. When you look at the big man group, you had several big guards play, so Dontrez Styles started, but then Bryce Hurd coming into the game. He did a really good job. He was physical. First bucket comes off of a putback. I loved that from him. Dennis Parker looked physically bigger. I think, the weight staff has done a great job with him. He has gotten bulkier, more physical, but still has some of that quickness, the ball handling ability. I think he's just going to be a great piece to be able to plug and play different spots within that lineup. I think when you talk about Paul McNeil, who came in the game, he looked solid. You could tell he wanted to score the ball. So he was a little itchy on getting those shots up, and that'll kind of decrease as the season goes along. But you saw it with that last three-pointer. He's really able to make things happen, and that's going to be something that NC State might need as they go down the stretch here in this season. But overall, again, the depth, biggest takeaway. I think that is something that is going to be a strength of this team. You're going to see different guys going off on different nights, and sometimes it's going to be unexpected. But I think the cupboard is definitely stocked, and it's in a way that's more so than any other season under Kevin Keatts. So let's transition a bit and start talking about some of the top players of the evening. I want to start off talking about Dontrez Styles because he's really the guy who set the tone in the early part of the game. And he showed exactly what I've been talking about all preseason for NC State. He's versatile. He started at the 4, can play that big guard. He also played, in a more traditional small forward type role later on in the game. But he finishes the game with 9 points. He knocked down a 3. He got those 9 points, I think, all within the first 5 to 6 minutes of the game, and was aggressive. I think, he is somebody that is going to be relied on to make shots throughout the year and just be active. You saw it last year at Georgetown. He's an active player. He's going to attack the glass. He's going to try to make things happen. And he also, was a defensive force as well. So his stats weren't amazing on that end. He didn't have a ton of rebounds or a ton of blocks, but he just impacted the game throughout. So I think this is exactly what you wanted to see from Styles to start the year off. This is what he's going to do throughout the rest of the year. So all in all, great night. Definitely one of my top players of the game. Next, I want to talk about another newcomer, Marcus Hill. So we've talked about it, James and I, on several podcasts and IPS takes. Marcus Hill is somebody who's just going to get to the basket. That's what he does, and I think he's going to do it at a high level numerous times a game, regardless of the opponent. And you saw it here. He's going to have stretches where it's not necessarily the prettiest thing in the world, but then he's going to have a stretch of 4 or 5 minutes where he is unguardable and is just keeping defenders off balance and getting to the rim and finishing. You saw it at the start of the second half. The guy came out there and just really put on a clinic on how to shift speeds, get to the rim, get crafty, and finish. I think another extremely positive thing about Marcus Hill when you look at this game, he only finished, I think, with 2 assists. But there's 4 more probably that were on the table of just guys who missed wide open shots. He early on was definitely being more of a facilitator. He hit Mike O'Connell in transition for a really great 3, a good look there. He also had one play where he drove baseline. I think it was on Styles' 3, where he drives baseline, draws a ton of defense, and kicks it over to the corner, wide open 3, knocks it down. The guard play overall was impressive to me last night, and I'm way more confident even than I was a couple of days ago. But Marcus Hill just showed you everything that you wanted to see. So when you talk about a guy making a jump from a lower conference to a major conference, you want to see some of those things translate. And granted, it was against a not so great team, but those skills translated. You saw what you wanted to see. You saw him fit in with other guys who are proven Power 5 players. I think he's someone that's going to be paying huge dividends by season end for NC State. All right, let's pivot to a big man. We've talked all preseason long. Brandon Huntley-Hatfield got a lot of the publicity and recognition and a lot of the maybe accolades, predictions amongst fans. But Ben Middlebrooks surprises a little bit, gets the start. I think those two will go back and forth all year. But Middlebrooks really showed out. I finished with a double-double, 10 points, 10 rebounds, had several blocks, and he just looked really good. He was able to defend really well, provide a high level of rim protection, and when NC State is going to play as aggressive and physical as they do in a full-court spot, and they're going to allow people to blow by them at times just by the nature of how they play, you really need a guy who's going to be at the back line of your defense, who's going to take away some of those easy opportunities or make chances harder. Make guys hit 15-foot pull-ups at a full sprint because they think it's an open shot and have him closing out, maybe blocking the shot. That just sets you up for a lot of success. He knocked down a 3. Not sure what the coaching staff will think about that shot, but he did knock it down. He just had an all-around good game. Was a target off of a pick and roll. Him and Mike O'Connell seemed to pick up right where they left off last year. So all in all, very encouraging. He's somebody who I think paired with Huntley-Hatfield and all the other bigs that we've talked about, it is just a really good spot for your front court to be in. Lots of skill, lots of depth, lots of physicality. So loved everything from Ben Middlebrooks. A big bright spot in the front court for me. The last guy I want to talk about is Breon Pass, and man, what a feel-good story for a guy who's been in the program for as long as he has, waited for opportunity, and is getting rewarded at least in the early season and is showing that it's worthwhile. So ended the game with 14 points, was very efficient, 2 of 4 from 3, I think 5 of 8 overall. Looked really good attacking, looked really, really good kind of just navigating the defense, pushing the ball in transition. It's all really great things to see from Breon Pass. And if he can bring, even this kind of element throughout the year, that's just going to improve that depth even more. Because I think, when you talk about guards and lead guards especially, State's loaded there right now. In my opinion, you got Marcus Hill we've already talked about, Mike O'Connell who had a great game, Jaden Taylor can play that lead guard role, Trey Parker who looked great as well. And then you have another just high-level athlete in Breon Pass who can make things happen. And you're starting to think, man, we can keep these guys fresh not only through the course of a game, but through the course of a season. State's going to be able to rotate a lot, keep guys fresh, feeling good, feeling healthy, and it's going to pay dividends. And when inevitably when a guy gets hurt, you just have options that you feel comfortable with to step up. And Breon Pass just, I think reinforced what the coaching staff must obviously be feeling right now because he got in early. He was one of the first guys off the bench, I believe. So, I think it's a situation where that could play out the rest of the year. Some guys will have nights where they play more than others. But overall, I think Pass is kind of cementing himself at least in a greater, broader rotation. So love to see that. Feel-good story for sure. I hope he continues to play this way throughout the early season. So that is our take on NC State's season opening win. They come back to the court on Friday taking on Presbyterian. Should be another game where State has defined clear advantages and just has to execute and take control. I think they will. I think the season is shaping up to be very nice. looking forward to see the continued chemistry amongst this large rotation as guys are happy with others succeeding as well as getting their own opportunity. That's a recipe for success for any good team who wants to win meaningful games at the end of the year. So stick with us. We'll have one of these breakdowns after most of every game. I really appreciate you guys being here. Hope you got something out of this, and I'll see you on the next one.